Shirley with Entertainment Weekly, and we are live on Facebook with the cast of Hulu's Castle Rock. Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Hello. Hey. Thank you, everyone.
Facebook?
Yeah, hello, Facebook. So if you have any questions or comments, leave those below. We're going to try to field them and include them in this interview. To start off, so just to give a little quick rundown of the series to anybody who hasn't watched the trailer yet, it is an anthology series set in the fictional town of Castle Rock, home to several horrors over the years in Stephen King's works. You guys just had your Comic-Con panel, and I believe Dusty and Sam, the creators of this, you guys said that this is an adaptation of the spirit of Stephen King. What does that mean?
Great question. So this show tells an original story that is sort of written in the key of Stephen King, that draws from a bunch of the best-loved characters and landmarks from the Stephen King library.
Mm-hmm. Like what?
Well, this season, Shawshank Prison plays a really big role, and we were sort of excited about the idea of telling a story in the great tradition of Stephen King's like crime and punishment stories. And so hanging over the entire first season is literally the prison, which sort of the town sits in the shadow of, and we sort of understand what the relationship is between the town and probably the most famous prison in American literature.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, this all started with an idea 10 years ago in an email by you?
There were some emails. No, Dusty and I, we've been friends for a long time. We've worked together in a bunch of different capacities, and we have rattled around a bunch of different TV ideas over the years. One thing that we loved about Stephen King and the Stephen King library was that he has these towns that he has rained terrors and disasters onto for decades. And
right,
so
a rabid dog here.
The rabid dog, the couple serial killers.
A demon running a shop.
There was that shopkeeper. That's true. Some haunted houses. Some, you know, it's basically a terrible, terrible place to live. So and seemed like an interesting place to tell some stories on TV. So it's true that I recently dug out an old email that's about 10 years old that Dusty and I traded, talking about doing a show set in Castle Rock. Yeah. Here we are.
It'll be a DVD extra. Not an entire email on a DVD. Anyway, Sissy, since you're sitting right next to me, I want to ask you, it's been more than 40 years since Carrie hit theaters.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, sorry to say that out loud. But I do want to know, that was the first King novel that was ever adapted into a film. So how does it feel to come full circle back into the King universe?
Feels great. I love Stephen King. I really like these two guys, and it's a great cast.
Yes.
And it's great storytelling. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad to be back in the Stephen King universe.
So tell us a little
Feels
bit.
like home.
Yes, it does. A terrifying home. So tell us a little bit more about your character. You play Ruth Deaver.
Ruth Deaver. I have really the story is about her son, Henry Deaver, played by Andre Holland, who wasn't able to be here today, but he sends his regards.
Oh, good. Thank you, Andre. I hope he's watching on Facebook.
And the thing that drew me to it was that I'll get there. Ruth Deaver has dementia, and when I talked to Sam and Dustin, they talked about the difference between the horror of the disease that Ruth suffers and all the horror. Oops, I'm not.
It's okay.
And all of the horror that surrounds this town of Castle Rock, which is the, you know, for her it's double indemnity because she's in her own horror in this town filled with horror. So it was rough.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
But wonderful.
I do like that we have the 3 Stephen King alums sitting along the first row. And I know, we actually just got a fan question for Bill from Silvana Rano. Hello, Silvana. What was the biggest challenge playing the kid? It was totally easy.
To make it good. It's a funny question because it's hard to like whenever you guys get that question like what's the biggest challenge of a role?
Weren't you starving yourself?
Yeah, I was. I lost a lot of weight, but that wasn't the biggest challenge. I don't know. Like you approach a role and it's like what the biggest challenge is like the role. You know what I mean? It's like okay, what's the psychology behind this character? What makes it truthful? What makes it intriguing, and then figuring out that tone. And I feel like that's every character that you do, and that's the biggest challenge. Yeah, and like whatever, like lost weight or changing things, but it's all the same thing. So it's a hard question to answer. But yeah, I was really intrigued by the character and the world that these guys created, and so you want to do that justice, like their vision, and then like, okay, I'll incorporate it and then do something, that hopefully you guys like and other people like.
Yeah. How did you study up for this role, just to follow up to Silvana's? You don't have the source material, the text, the Bible.
Yeah, no, because it's an original story, and Sam and Dusty and I, they obviously researched a lot of my character has been in a cage in an oil tank in a secluded part of the prison for a very long time. So
pleasant.
Very pleasant, And I got into the cage. I'm like, there's not much to move around in here. So, we, so they did a lot of research on solitary confinement, and once I came aboard, I researched that myself and what that does to someone's psyche and how you turn out. And I think that was really important, at least when you start off being introduced to this character. It's a character that sort of everything is new to him because he's been so long in a place that coming out into the world is overwhelming, to say the least. But it's also just him almost figuring out that what the world is again anew. So.
Yeah. Well, now, speaking of unpleasantness, I have to ask about Melanie. Your character, Molly, is a realtor in a terrible town that people shouldn't be staying in. Tell us about her decision here. Why is she still here?
It's a weird decision. It's a strange one. I would not choose to do that job. She did choose to. I think a lot of it is because there's a lot of things that happened in Molly's past that she's holding on to. She feels a great deal of responsibility about. And I think she sort of feels like it's up to her to make the town a better place, to do something good for the world, to do something good for the community. She's just in a sort of perpetual amends for things that have happened in her past, and it's sad. It's not leading to her own or anyone else's happiness. So we'll see if she figures it out.
We're really bringing the mood down here.
Listen,
So I do want to bring in another fan question. This is from Jillian S. And let's start with Jane here. Which movie based on a Stephen King novel do you find scariest? Or does nothing scare you, Jane, alum of Don't Breathe?
I think someone else has to take this. The scariest. I mean, my favorite is Carrie. I love that movie so much. I guess it's pretty scary. Maybe Carrie.
Mm-hmm. And Sissy, your response?
Well, Carrie, of course.
Everyone else?
Thank you, Jane.
Yes.
Does everyone else have a pick?
I mean, I think it's
Yeah.
hard for me not to pick The Shining. It's a book that is about a writer who holds himself up with his family and has trouble writing, and then ends up trying to murder his family. So it taps deeply into my own sense of questions about myself.
It's very close to you in real life.
It's close.
No, I'd say The Shining too. It's I remember that was one of those films that my parents would always wanted to show me films that they liked. So they were like, The Shining is a great film. Like, it's one of the first horror films I think I saw. And
how old were you?
I don't know,
6.
You gotta start them young.
No, but you're maybe 10 or something, and it was like
Yeah,
that
a
was a
lot of
movie that
information.
that's a really good movie. So you should see it. And,
You better see it as soon as you can.
yeah, I never forgot it.
Well, now I do want to know, and I think this is a burning question that a lot of people have going into this series because it's not a direct adaptation of a King novel. What should be on their reading lists going in? Do they have to have read a novel? Do they have to have read certain stories? What would you guys recommend? Maybe this is for the creators.
I think a lot of people love and have a connection to the movie of The Shawshank Redemption, but I think a lot of people haven't actually read the novella that it's based on, Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption. And there's something really amazing about that book and the way that it sort of brings you into the world of this prison through the mind of Red Redding, played by Morgan Freeman in the movie. And you get a little bit of more of a sense of some of the things going on in the prison that you maybe can't feel all of in the movie, because it's an adaptation. So I would recommend Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, but I just say if you didn't do your summer reading, you can just tune in and watch the show. It's okay. You do not need to eat your greens first. But it's a great book.
So to make it clear, there is no homework you have to do before Castle Rock aside from watching this Facebook Live. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for being here. Again, cast of Castle Rock. Bye everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.